This is a lesson that I did over a series of 3 days, and it was really on the idea of syntax for English 1. And the rest of the presentation will just kind of take you through what I did. Day 1 was really just a short day, and what they did was I introduced some key concepts. I gave them a handout that was on basic syntax that we reviewed, and we did selective underlining and highlighting on it. Alright, so with the key vocabulary, the main idea to get across to the students is the benefits of good syntax. The writer and speaker can manipulate through grammar, they can set the pace for the reader, and they can add emphasis to a piece of writing. Day 2 is really the heart of the lesson. For warm-up this day, this is how I start the class, is we reviewed the terms from the day before in a word sort activity. The students did it in groups, and it lasted for about 15 minutes. What I did for this word sort activity was the kids were sitting in table groups, and each table received a little packet of words and definitions, and they had to match them up. When they finished, we went over them as a class, and they were able to open up their basic syntax notes and check their answers. The notes are available on my website. This is just the words and the definitions, so you could kind of see what they were, but they were cut apart, and they were exactly what you would think they would be in little strips. For the lesson's going to last about 40 to 45 minutes. It's the bulk of our class on day 2. It's a typical day for us. But this is where I bring in the objectives, the key vocabulary, and the group activity. One of the things that I like to do in addition to language objectives and content objectives is to pose some type of guiding question to focus the learning. One of the things that I did to get their attention and to really make an impact was to do a choral reading with "This Sentence Has 5 Words" by Gary Provost. I read what was in black, the kids read what was in blue, and by the end of it, they really get a good feel for sentence lengths. The next step in the lesson is to go over the new key vocabulary, and it's basically showing the kids the different types of sentence lengths. The next part of the lesson is the most fun for the kids. It's a group activity. We're doing sentence stations in part 1. The kids are in table groups of about 3 to 4 kids. One of the fortunate things of being at FM9 is that we have whiteboard tables, and basically what I did was I put each group at a table, and they rotated around to the various stations, forming together sentences of varying lengths. Part 2 kind of ups the ante a little bit. It has the kids making a class paragraph all together. They're still in their groups. In fact, each group has drawn for a type of sentence to create. They have certain time limits. They each have their own timers. And then they are asked to draft a sentence that we can put up on the board into a paragraph. The sentence starter was actually a quote by Stephen King. And so I would write this up on the wall. We have whiteboards. And I would write the sentence starter up on the wall. And then they're each going to have an amount of time to draft their sentence. And then for the final activity is that we will send a volunteer up from each group, and we're going to read the paragraph aloud in a choral reading. Every day to end the class I have a closer. It's an activity that kind of brings everything together. And in this case it was an independent practice for them to try to create and draft their own engaging paragraph in the writer's notebook. This was the independent practice I had the kids do in their writer's notebook. There's a brief activity on day 3, and it's in the form of reflection to get the kids thinking about what our objectives were and kind of reminding us of what that guiding question was. So I bring up from my Google presentation from the day before the lesson objective slide and just review these 3 things with them. This activity is the reflection activity with a partner. Students are going to exchange writer's notebooks. They're going to read each other's entries from the night before. They're going to use sticky notes to find one item to bless and one item to press in their writing. This is something that we do quite regularly. The final activity for this entire lesson is the personal reflection in the writer's notebook. They're going to be answering questions about their own writing, how they've developed their own style. They're revisiting the guiding question. They are finishing a sentence starter in which they're drawing a conclusion. All right, this concludes my lesson. If you guys have any questions or you want to contact me, here's my email. Please feel free to do so. I'm at Flower Mound 9th Grade Center. Thanks.